It turns out this is such clean medicine. And how can it not be accepted and advanced? Well, the problem is this is clean medicine, and the underpinning of it is dirty politics. It turns out that the Department of Defense really had no intent, in my opinion, of trying to advance this for treatment of veterans. The top general, Admiral Roughhead, General Conway, and the combat officers wanted this. But this got wrapped around in politics, and we had obstruction from the inside. This happened with the first publication. The military had sent multiple groups down to observe what I was doing and find out if this was a fraud. And all of them found out that it wasn't. But they wanted my data in the veterans study to analyze. And I refused to give it to them until it was published because I didn't trust what was going on. We had had a lot of criticisms and resistance. Finally, the day that the first half of the data was published, I sent an email to the Army Surgeon General's office notifying that it was up and published. And a somewhat threatening statement came back to me that insinuated that I had not informed the journal that this was only part of the data of our study. And so I immediately called the journal and said, you're well aware this was a preliminary study. It's all in there. And I just got an email. You may be getting contacted by someone trying to claim that I am misleading you, that I'm not showing you all the data of the study, which we're still accumulating. And they told me, oh no, we're well aware of this. This is an ongoing study. This is preliminary data, and you're publishing it. I said, okay, that's good. Next day, I got a call from them. The military had called and threatened the journal with their credibility and the credibility of their editor unless they canceled my article and retracted it, claiming that they had seen all the rest of the data in the study and it was all negative, showing either negative effect or no effect on these veterans with TBI and PTSD. And therefore, my publication really was a fraud. And they said, we've vetted Harch in every way we can. We've looked into him. We had our 3 finest reviewers review his manuscript. He's rewritten it 3 times. And we can't find anything that questions the integrity and credibility of him and his study. And unless you can produce the evidence showing it's a fraud, we're going to publish it. And the individual, who I don't want to name right now, repeated his threat and told Dr. Pavlishak, the editor, we will destroy your credibility and the credibility of your journal if you do not retract this article because it's a fraud. Dr. Pavlishak repeated that unless he could prove that this was a fraud, it was going to get published. And then that doctor said to him, I need to apologize for what I just had to do. This is totally out of character for me. I've never done anything like this in my life, and I'm sorry. And hung up the phone. Well, the study got published, as did the rest of the data, as did the subsequent studies after that. And meanwhile, all of the claims about this was an expensive therapy, it couldn't work, it was all placebo, other obstructive behavior continued to occur. Even the veterans in my study, it got declared that I was violating military law by giving a donation to these veterans, something of value greater than $50. There were multiple incidences of attempts to discredit this information. Eventually, the studies were constructed in a way that the data was misinterpreted, and to this day has been the main reason that these veterans cannot get hyperbaric oxygen for traumatic brain injury and PTSD.
Because it's clean medicine, dirty politics.
And what does that boil down to? Clean medicine and dirty politics.